Hey everybody! It is a fabulous day because it is new episode day. Welcome to episode 7 of Tales from a Professional Nerd. I am your professional nerd, Bryan C.P. Steele. And today we're going to talk a little bit about commission painting. We're actually going to not talk about it so much as I'm going to try something new. I've talked a lot about my various role-playing and miniature games, like writing work and design work that takes place here at the computer. But I haven't really gotten into much or showing you much about what I do in the other half of the studio, the kind of painting and sculpting area. I've alluded to it quite a few times, but I think this is going to be the first time we're going to give it a try. I've got a new camera rig set up over there to take a look at what I'm actually working on. So for a while in this video, you're not going to get to see this shining face, but you'll get to see what I'm working on. I'll get to show you some cool stuff, some neat things. If this works, I don't even know if this is going to work out. So I'm going to need you to make sure that in the comments you let me know whether or not this kind of video works, if the changing of the cameras and stuff, if that comes off right. Or if this entire thing is just a ramshackle mess. But before I switch over to the other camera and the other video, I want to talk about a couple of things. I like to normally, do some shout outs and some thank yous and that sort of thing. And what I do want to do is talk, first off, I want to throw some heavy props my wife's way. So I've talked a lot about Artemis Portraits and her charcoal portrait business. That's she's going to shows now and she's starting to sell things based off of her art. Well, as of just last night, she actually got into a little bit of a Twitter tag war with a famous actor from tons of things, and by the end of that tag war, the famed and amazing Lou Diamond Phillips has agreed to officially work with Natalie, work with Artemis Portraits to create a picture and to get it signed to auction off for charity. She's over the moon about it. I'm super proud of her. It's awesome. I love when I love interacting with Hollywood stars and stuff through our various works and conventions and but this is really cool, and I am super proud of her. I wanted to talk a little bit so today the miniatures you're going to see me working on are from the Fallout Wasteland Warfare miniature game line from Modifius Entertainment. So I love Fallout as a video game, as a world. I wish that I could do a hardcore role-playing tabletop game for it, but Modifius put out their Wasteland Warfare miniatures game last year, and it's super fun. It takes a little getting used to. The learning curve's a little high, but once you're in it, it's fantastic. It's a great game. It really does capture the feel of the video game narrative and a lot of that stuff, which actually part of the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I have been given the green light to go ahead and let people know that I am doing some work for Modifius through their Fallout Miniatures game line. I am writing a bunch of really cool scenarios, hopefully to put together in like a campaign setting sort of thing. Because the Fallout game is really narrative. It's very structured, based off of you can just run headlong at each other and kill each other, but that really isn't going to fill the gap that a Fallout game really should have. So it's very scenario based, and so I get to write a bunch of really cool scenarios based off of some terrain pieces that you guys don't know are coming, and I'm really excited, not only to be working with the game because it's a game and it's a license that I really enjoy, but also with Modifius. I've done a little bit of freelance writing for some of their role-playing games, but this is kind of my first foray into their miniature sector, which also earlier this week they announced that they are doing an Elder Scrolls miniature game, which I've known about for a little while and I haven't been able to talk about it. And I'm glad that I can now that they've officially shown the Dragonborn figure from Skyrim. That they're doing a miniatures war game based in the Elder Scrolls license as well. And I have it on good authority from my supervisors at Modifius that I will be able to have a hand in that as well. So I'm super excited on all counts, and I'll keep you guys up to date as to when and how and what all that stuff is. But I just wanted to kind of fanboy a little bit about that. And then I'm also going to show, so because I wanted to talk a little bit about commission painting today, that one of the things that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be working on some commission pieces. I'm working on some commission pieces in Fallout. One of my fellow players and a playtester is having me paint a bunch of terrain, some of the turrets and things for his force and a couple of his guys. So I'll be working on those today. But also, I wanted to show that sometimes you have commissions from games you don't play or miniatures lines that you may not have known about. You know, a customer, a client of mine got a hold of me through Facebook. They put a call out of, hey, I need a local miniature painter to do some work on some of my figures, and you know, word of mouth is worth its weight. And somebody contacted him and said, hey, you need to go to Bryan. He does good work. He's local. He'll take good care of you. And so this client got in touch with me, and we met yesterday, and he gave me a bunch of really cool fantasy football players that I'm doing for him and his family plays. He's very, very big into Blood Bowl. And so I'm going to be painting these minis. They are from a company called Exit 23. I will put their contact and stuff information in the stuff below, in the description below, because they got some really cool models. And I'm gonna, mostly today is probably just gonna be a lot of cleaning and maybe putting some of these guys on their bases, just so I can maybe get some primer put on them, so I can get started on like the first wave, because it's like 30 models that I'm doing for this guy. So we're just going to kind of show get you the basics, and then maybe, you know, in a couple episodes also get to show you some finished products as well. Either way, I wanted to test out this whole check out my hobby section. I wanted to be able to show you guys a miniature that I had sculpted and put into the mold, the mold, so I can make some masters. But unfortunately, the high density silicone molding rubber that I'm using is not cured yet. I took a look at it, and sadly, it might be a couple of days before I get a chance to pour some resin and show you guys. In fact, maybe I will do like a little not video in the middle of the week just to show you guys, hey, check this out. These are what they look like. But expect to see more of that out of me as I get more free time and more time to be able to spend over the hobby desk and get some stuff sculpted. I love making models, and I put basically I make a couple of them, and then I paint one and put them up on eBay, because at this time that's the easiest way for me to do protected sales of these resin cast models. And I'll keep you guys in the loop as to what you can get, when you can get them, and maybe what game systems they're perfect for without being intellectually property infringing. So without further ado, now that I've gone through my pre-game speech, let's take a look and see if this new whole camera rig thing works out. So cross your fingers, and we'll see you over in the studio. All right, everybody. So here we are. This is my kind of my individual paint area, my little cutting board that I use to keep the splatter down and whatnot. So I'm gonna grab the camera here for a second and give you a quick sweep over this area, because you haven't seen this before. So it's going to hopefully not be super nauseating. We're just going to grab that. All right, so up here we have all my shelves, my various models, my gigantic Necron army, some Fallout stuff, some Dust 1947 stuff, and then a whole bunch of Dark Age stuff. I was a big Dark Age collector, obviously, for obvious reasons. Then over here in the corner, I've got a whole bunch of Batman models from Night Models. I love that game so much. And then over there we got a bunch of packing material, some unpainted models, kind of my general sculpting kit area where all my tools go. And then you're going to get some flash blind here for a second, because that's my light. But then my paint rack kind of sweeps over, bunch of paint stuff. Ignore my computer. And then, let's see, poster someone's commented on before, other posters, some unpainted stuff, bunch of Dungeons in a Box that I haven't done anything with, all my various glues and things, the bits towers. So these are, anytime that you hear me say something about having them in the bits tower, that's these. These are my my various collections. I try to keep them as separated out, like there's all my chaos bits, and if you come down here, you got all my Tyranid bits, and then all the bases and the like. I try and keep this stuff, generally situated, all my flock and things, and some Stuart Simples, Goldest Gold that ever golded. Such great paint. I'm waiting on my my Blackest Black 3. It's on its way. But yeah, so like this is what I got. Oh, the creepy cat picture that I painted with my kids at their elementary school, because that's the way I roll, is creepiness. All right, so I'm going to get us situated again here. Try to get it back to where it was. Almost. There we go. All right, cool. All right, so let's get started. I don't want to spend a whole ton of time, just showing you things and whatnot. But I do have a couple of things that I kind of want to point out. So what I've got here is I've got Paladin Dance and Captain Cade from the Brotherhood of Steel in the Fallout Wasteland Warfare miniatures game. I've already got them started because they are a commission for a local player. It's actually the same guy who's got me doing the other Fallout stuff. I have been, just super dragging my feet on these guys because he did not give me a deadline. So I have been just taking forever. And I sat down the other day and I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this other commission, I gotta get my stuff together and get these done. So I'm going to work a little bit on those tonight. These are some of the coolest little add-ons, I think, for the Fallout game. So this is the turrets set. It comes with 2 little laser turrets, little Mark 1 laser turrets, and it comes with 2 Mark 1 machine gun turrets. Now, in the Wasteland Warfare game, you can buy, for like your settlement or your scenarios, you can buy turrets to set up on the board, and it'll protect your stuff. Depending on the scenario, it'll protect your assets, your resources, or whatever. But the set also comes with these cool little cards, and I dig them. Let's see if I can't do this without getting you a huge glare. There we go. So we got the machine gun turret. So everything in the game, every gun in the game has a stat card, and it really varies. Like if you've ever played Fallout before, there is a ton of different options for you to give your guys. In the case of a turret, it is part gun and part thing that can be destroyed. So what you've got here is this item card that comes with it. This is for the machine gun turret. So it is basically, these are the ranges. You've got the first template is a green bar. A green bar is going to be about yay long. So this is going to be short range. The second bar here is long range. So it'll be basically 2 greens back to back is how far it can shoot. This yellow die means that when you roll to hit, you also get to roll this yellow die. Now, there's a different proprietary dice that comes with the Fallout game, and if this yellow die is going to add in whether or not it breaks armor, or if it gets a special effect, those kinds of things. So this is kind of like a modifier. How well did you hit your opponent? And then over here, these kind of stats are normally what you find on models, on people. So this symbol means that when shooting a ballistic weapon, it has a skill of 4. And in this game, it is a D20 roll to hit, and that D20 has got a variety of numbers on it. Most of them are between say 1 and, or 2 and 9, that sort of thing. And those numbers, if you get equal to or under your skill, it's it. And then, adding modifiers and all that other stuff. The heart is the number of health that this has. It can take 5 wounds, so this little machine gun turret can take 5 wounds before it dies, before it explodes. And then down here, we've got these helmet symbols. I know that makes, it means that it's armored. This first one is physical armor. It has a physical armor rating of 2. So when you get hit in Wasteland Warfare, you roll a D12, a very special D12 that has some blank sides, some X's, and 1, 2, 3, 4. A couple of different times. If this guy gets hit, if this machine gun turret gets hit with something that has physical damage, it rolls that die, that armor die. If it rolls a 2 or a 1, it protects the amount of armor that it rolled on the die. So let's say that this guy got hit with a damage 3 physical something, one of my super mutants threw a rock at it or something. If it rolled a 2 on the armor die, it's equal to or less than its physical armor rating, and it rolled a 2, it's going to subtract 2 from the damage of my boulder, doing 1 point of damage. I'm going to knock a wound off it. The lightning bolt is energy damage, and then the kind of nuclear symbol is radiation damage. In this case, it has no radiation armor, so if I have something that actually does radiation attacks, like some kind of gamma gun or something, it has no armor to that. Any damage I do would just kill it. This symbol over here, you'll notice that it's same as the physical armor. When this thing shoots you, it does a base damage of 2, physical, just bullets. And then down at the bottom here, it's got this, starts the round with 3 readied symbols. Basically, it's got 3 tokens on it that allows it to react during the opponent's turn. So if people get too close within green eyeball, so green distance within its eyeball, so got this thing here, and I've got the green bar, Paladin Dance gets within green. If I've got these tokens left, I could spend 1 for the turn and goes brant, and we shoot him in between turns. We react to it, kind of like a turret should. But it can only do it so many times before it's all juiced out. So if you have a whole bunch of little cannon fodder guys, you could send them at the turret until it's kind of out of juice for the turn and then go deal with it. Laser turret, same kind of thing. It's got 2 greens, same green distance, basically it's the same setup as the machine gun turret, but it does 2 energy instead of 2 physical. And then this also comes with a cool another little item card that I dig. It comes with the turret inhibitors. Basically, it's a little item that you keep on your side of the field that says any turrets you deploy will not attack your models. Neutral or enemy turrets are unaffected. So by having this, I can't be like, haha, your guys don't your turrets don't shoot me, but it means that my guys are set up that these are friendly and it's not going to, I don't have to worry about my own turrets popping me. And then this says this card's not assigned to a unit, but it remains in play for the duration of battle. So basically, you get these turret inhibitors, and your turrets don't shoot anybody. All right, so I had mentioned, so I'm gonna put some base coats on these turrets to get them up to a certain point. If I get time, I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that I get some paint on these guys. But I also want to get I had talked about another commission that I was doing by another client that is from Exit 23, I believe is the name of the company. Is that what I said? Yeah, Exit 23. And they are these cool kind of fantasy football. Oh, of course I choose nobody who has a football. Here we go. So they're fantasy football ladies in various kind of states of ninja. Like this one here, she's got like metal reinforced legs. There's one that I saw that had a complete prosthetic arm for throwing. Oh, there she is. So she's got this cool prosthetic arm. I'll see if I can't get a little closer to the camera so you guys can see better. Oh, yeah, there we go. That's my sweet spot. So she's got this cool prosthetic arm for throwing football back and forth. And so I've got a bunch of these guys to do. There's a handful of them that I want to do kind of before the others because they're going to be relatively easy for me to get primed, get based, get started, and hopefully get done and set them off to the side so I can focus more on the guys that have more detail that I can spend more time on, that kind of thing. And there's a couple of these cool werewolves. Werewolves playing football. Yeah, that light is just almost too bright. So, and some of it is because you're looking at these metal models, and they're decent. They're good models. This Exit 23, they're clean sculpts. They're all metal. They don't do any resin yet. I've got a couple of mold lines on here that I'm going to shave off, and they're all Slata based, and the bases that they come with are not. They're flat. So I'm going to end up doing some cutting tonight and get these guys mounted. And I think I'm going to do that first so the glue on those gets a chance to completely dry before I slap some primer on there, and then we'll go into some other stuff. In the intro video, because I recorded that before I came over here to the studio, in the intro video I mentioned that I had something in the mold that I wanted to show you guys because I'm going to paint some up at some point and get them on the eBay for people to buy. And I was really happy that my mold making stuff, it cured. It actually, oh, that's really bright. It cured way better than I thought it was going to. So I've got a rubber mold here. I'm going to pull out those two guys here in a second. I'm also going to see if I can't get maybe a different set of lights. Let me see if I can't get some of my other lights to combat this big monster. And then I'm gonna pop this light off to see if that helps the glare. Maybe a little. I don't know. Doesn't help my ability. You know what? For the first part of here, I think it'll be just fine. When I get to actual painting and stuff, I can turn the big light back on. So when I was pouring resin, this is gonna be funny. When I was pouring my resin to get into this rubber mold, I made way too much resin, and I've got a bunch of bases and things that I have made over the course of the last few years. Like here, I've got a couple of like cobblestone or wood decking that I've sculpted. See if I can't get those a little closer so you can see them. And I sell these in like packs of 5 or 10 on eBay. But I had the extra mold, the extra resin. Here's a good one in a bigger size of that decking. So for like people who play like pirate ship games and stuff like that. But I also do, I've made cosplay props. I made a prop for a straight-to-video movie once. I made like a bone dagger out of poured foam and painted rubber. And so then that's always fun. But one of the things I did for a while there was a bunch of people doing a bunch of Star Trek cosplay, and one of the guys I talked to at one of the shows said that there was not a really good market for the like comms badges, the insignias. So I made a Starfleet one, a Bajoran one, and then I went ahead and made a Klingon one as well. And so I poured, oh, I got some schmutz in that one. And so I poured myself up I sculpted one out and then poured myself out a mold for it. And I sell these on eBay as well. And they're neat because they're hard resin, so it's the kind of thing that you can, put a magnet or a pin or something on the back, paint it, prime it, sand it, whatever. And they all need cleaning because, pouring resin is never a perfect process. But I had so much extra resin that I was like, I might as well do something with them. All right, so here is the moment of truth. These wonderful little guys that I made the other day and got poured into their mold. Let me find my jewelry pliers. Actually, I might be able to get at least one of these guys out just by hand. So I'm going to make sure I'm in camera, Bryan. Again, this is the first time I've done this whole new camera thing. I'm going to want lots of advice on the comment section. So I'm going to peel the mold back just a little bit, just to get it away from the sides initially. And then see if I can't just pop this bad boy out and see how we turned out. Oh, you look like you might be sticking a little bit. That does not bode well for me. Oh, wait, come on. There we go. Yeah, it needs a little cleaning, but so the first one of its kind. So if you look real close, it looks kind of like a little mechanical, worm thing, like a mechanical maggot with a little pinching claw and a clamping clamp. Pinching claw and clamping clamp, yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm a wordsmith. And so here's one of them. I'm going to get him cleaned up a little later. And then his buddy here, because I always want variation when I sell things. We have a similar clumpy clump guy. Did that come out? Okay, it came out. We have another little wormy worm that will mount, when I get a chance to clean them up, I'll mount it to a 30mm base as per their design. And then I'll get them painted up and put them up on eBay. I originally designed them to be good proxies for the welder drones for Dark Age for the core, and I think they will. I think they'll do good in that role. I think they'll be just fine in that role. And then once I get them cleaned up and painted, and I'll make a handful more casts of them to make sure that I get them to the point where I like get them nice and arranged so they're a cool thing to sell, and then I'll put them up on eBay and let people. I'll start sharing the link, let people know, hey, you want to come get these robot worker drone worm things. Not exactly sure what I'm going to call them, because I I can't legally just straight up call them, hey, here are welder drones, because these are proxies. You know, they're not actually the things from Dark Age, because, you know, Simon still owns that property. I'm not going to be that guy. But yeah, so hopefully here in the next, we'll say next 4 or 5 days, maybe by next week, next video, you guys will get to see, you'll get to see some cool little robot snaky things to add to your various armies. So I'm going to do something, because next up is to mount these guys to their bases so I can get them dry and primed. So I'm going to need to cut into these bases to get their slots to fit. For me to do so, I will be using a scalpel. So I have an X-Acto knife. I do not like using my X-Acto knife nearly as much as I like using my scalpel. My scalpel, you can get the number 3 scalpel, medical scalpel from, you know, Amazon, whatever. They're not expensive by any stretch of the imagination. And then the blades I like to use are, what are they? Apparently they're Zinda, but that's, oh, there we go. They are number 15s are what I like to use. I'm gonna go ahead and change. This has got a bunch of putty on it. I use these for sculpting. I use them for I use them for breaking. I use them for pretty much anything that has to do with the precision cutting. I'll use one of these surgical blades, and they're so cheap. I think that box of like 200 blades cost me like $10. So I will try and change out these blades pretty much as often as I can. You know, if they need to get changed, because they are in fact medical scalpels and they are crazy sharp. But if you cut, you know, I don't use these for cutting things off of sprues or anything. That's going to dull them in like 2 seconds. But if I use them to, like in this case, I'm going to use them to cut the slits in these plastic bases, so the guys will fit in there nice and tight. And I'll probably use it to cut a few of these little schmutzes off of this flash off of. There's a couple little, you know, no, actually they're actually really good models as far as like clean wise, but there's still a couple of places where I want to make sure that I get that stuff taken care of before I dig in and start painting, because there is nothing more annoying. Well, okay, there's lots of stuff that's more annoying, but there's nothing, you know, on a minor level more annoying that, you know, you go, you spend some time cleaning up your model, and then you sit down with a primed model, brand spanking new primed model, and you find a giant chunk of flash that you may have initially thought was an actual piece of the model, and once primer hit it, and you can see it with some shadow behind it, and you're like, oh, okay, never mind. Not only is that not part of the model, but it totally blocked primer from, you know, this spot on the side of his face, or, you know, oh, the strap of his helmet is now dicked up because I had to use this to get at it. So I'm just giving him kind of a little once over. Oh, no, he's got some pretty bad mold lines right there on his foot. So I am going to use my little jeweler's file here and not rest on the table so it doesn't shake the whole world. I'm just going to kind of clean up these individual spots. Now, the guy who paid me to do this commission, he is paying me to do... Ow! As I poke myself. Am I bleeding? Bleeding on camera, that'd be great. Oh, not today. He is paying me to do effectively tabletop quality, like, you know, the kind of thing that I would be happy to put on the table for 28 of these guys, and then 2 of them are going to be kind of the captains of his team, and they are going to be fancy fants, and he paid a little extra to make sure that they get the kind of the star player treatment. All right, so now
one of the things that I do, especially when I'm cutting blind into a base like this, is I will always have like a pencil or a pen or something nearby, and I'll try and block it out as much as I can. So I want her to sit relatively like this on the base, as centered as I can, give or take. So then I will line her up and then break my lead. Line her up and then make kind of these couple of hash marks. I mean, I know you guys can't see those hash marks real well. Oh, maybe you can. Where it shows me where I'm going to be cutting that box out for her. And then because I know that that one's for her, I will set her on this base and set her off to the side, and then do the next one while I still have my pencil out. And then, okay, this guy, because he's kind of off-centered, I don't want him, because if I put him center of the base, he's going to be kind of jilted over the side. So I am going to put him a little closer to one side rather than the other. And that's going to give him his spot. And then Tiptoe Werewolf number 2. He looks good right there in the middle. Yeah, he looks solid. I like him there. So I think he's just going to, I can actually stand him up. Got my lines. All right. So now that I've got my lines drawn, put my pencil back out of the way so I'm not getting on top of myself here. I'll take my scalpel, and you can kind of see, on these models or on these bases where the indentation is for the hollow point in the base. So what I'll do is, excuse me, I will punch through the hollow part where I have drawn those lines, and then now rather than just slamming through the top, I can take a look to make sure, like down through the bottom, make sure that I got to the edges, because if I can help it, I don't want to cut through that hard plastic, because that gives this base some substance, some beefy. All right, and then now I just kind of press I don't want to cut through the hard part of the base if I can help it, and just kind of press it between. I'm not trying to cut it nearly as much as I am. I mean, yeah, I'm cutting the plastic, but I'm not. I don't want to. How that came really close to cutting the crap out of my finger. So what was I saying? I totally lost my train of thought because I almost sliced up my finger. All right, so yeah, there. So now this cat, the thickness of his slota base might be more than this, but that's not a bad thing, in all honesty. Oh, no, it's going to be a good fit. Because if it's a little thicker, you can get that kind of tension. You can get like an actual, like, a little bit of tension on the base, too. Now, so there are a lot of models out there these days that are standing on one foot. It's something that's great dynamic situation, but I would much rather have somebody with 2 feet planted on the ground than floating foot guy here, because it makes it very easy. So if you can take a look here, what's going to happen? Whoa! It makes it very easy for him not to have anything to hold that guy through. Now, there are a lot of people out there that do not paint models on the base. They use like an alligator clip apparatus, something similar to this, where they could have their guy, clipped in on a couple of different spots, something along those lines. And more power to them. I have never, with the exception of very few models or like pieces of models to do this, I can't. There's something about maybe my personal OCD or whatever. It makes me just a little bit crazy to not have a model as assembled as it can be before I start painting it. Hang on, I'm taking a drink. I'm not there. No pausing. I'm just very thirsty. So, in this instance, because I like to assemble all my guys together before I start painting, before I start priming them and stuff, I am going to use, what glue am I using? It's just glue I got at Hoblob, I think. I'm also going to use some Instaset, which is, a lot of people use the generic term, or the name brand term of Zip Kicker, which was like the first company that I know that used it. But it's just basically super glue accelerant. And now, it comes, let me put that lid back on. It comes in a spray pumpy bottle. I don't use the pumpy bottle because it will get everywhere. On models that you're working on your brushes, on your desk, on you, it will get everywhere. So instead, what I do is I unscrew the top, I get a drip on the end, and I apply it to where I'm going to have the glue going. I know some people use Q-tips. I generally just use the dropper itself. And then what I do is I put the glue, like it's just enough to hold it in place, just a thin little line, front and back of this slot. And then we're going to press it into that spot, get it nice and level, hold on for just a second, long enough for that accelerant to do its job, because the accelerant, it evaporates super quick, but that evaporation creates the fumes, and the fumes touch the glue, and the glue makes the da-da-da-da-da-da. He's now on the base. But what you'll notice is there's like a little gap. Where'd my toothpick go? Did I lose my toothpick? I did lose. Oh no, here it is. That's how I lose my toothpicks. So we've got like this little gap here, a little bit of a gap over here. Now, when I talk to the client, he's going to have me flock the top of this base. I'm going to texture the top of this base when I paint them, when I'm done with them. He wants kind of a gray, stony top. And I've got flock glory. You saw that when we went through the bits tower. So I know I'll be able to take care of that. But for now, I need to be able to reinforce this being in here, so it doesn't, while I'm handling it, while I'm painting it, so it doesn't get all, cockamamie before then. So what I'm going to do, this is something that I've always done for, I would say, most of my bases, unless they are just like perfect. When I do a slot like this, I add just a little more accelerant down the bottom. Now, there's a lot of people that say that using Zip Kicker or using the super glue accelerants makes the super glue brittle. And I'm sure on a chemical level that's probably the case, but I don't think I've ever really had an issue. And that's what I just did, by the way, is after I got the accelerant in kind of those grooves, I put just a tiny little drop on both sides of that slot base to help fill that hole, that gap, and to help hold the slot in the base. Then once we get to the point where we're also flocking the top, then he's going to be in here super good, and so I don't have to worry about that. So we'll send him out for the side, and time to do his wolfy brother. Let's do his wolfy brother. This webcam setup right here doesn't tell me how long this is. I'm gonna have to try. I might have to try and maybe use a timer in a different way or something. Oh, you know what? I called my son. That's right. I called my son for night calls. I called my 10-year-old boy to say goodnight right before I started videoing. So what I might do is I might grab my phone and see how long ago that was after I get these guys glued in. Because again, I don't want to spend hours on end here. God, come on, Brian. I am gonna cut myself if I don't. You guys are making me nervous. I've never done this on camera before. But yeah, I don't want to spend all night here, and I definitely still want to get the those turrets primed or get those turrets base coated and these guys primed, if I can help it, before we call this video as being to its fruition. And then, like I said, maybe next week we won't spend any time over here, but I'll show you some of the cool stuff that I've made and finished before then. Because obviously I'm going to do some more painting and things before the end of over the course of the week. Now, this guy's got a cool hand. It's kind of sitting on the ground too, but it's up just a slight touch above where the slot sits. So I'm going to try and lean him a little bit to see if it works. But if it doesn't, I'm going to leave that gap there. I'm not going to put any glue in his hand. I'm going to leave that gap there, and then we will we'll fix it in post. No, we will fix it when we flock the model. So let's see. Let's get him in there. Oh God, these guys are spiky. Ouch, 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 ouch. Okay, get in there. Yeah, he'll look kind of funny if I lean him all the way over. So I'm not going to lean him all the way over. And then we'll just, when I flock that model at the actual end of the whole process, or when I add flock before I paint the bottom, because we've got this, look at it, he can hold my toothpick, I will pile up a little extra grass or glue or flock here to help make it look like he's actually holding his hand down on something, because right now, I don't know if you can see that, it's got a pretty big gap here under his hand. All right, so let me help fill in those side spots. And then we'll get the Dryad lady on her base. And then, oh, that was a little too much glue, but hopefully... Yeah, all right, cool. It was a little too much glue. All right, you, Mr. Man, can sit there next to your buddy. And we'll do this one. But yeah, so, like, I'm just honestly, I'm super glad. I know you guys have been, a lot of you guys are my subscribers and, friends that I've talked to online, and you guys have watched my Facebook page, and you know that things have been kind of hectic with me lately, and I haven't had a chance to really spend any time over on this end of the studio, the miniature end, just because I've been so backlogged with writing novellas and stuff that I miss this. Painting has been something that I've done since I was wee. My stepbrother Michael taught me, kind of sort of threw me in the deep end when I was about 10. Gave me a bunch of his old Ralpartha orcs and some unfinished guys, and like his brushes and his crappy old tester's paints from back in the day, and was like, hey, I'm going to the Navy, here's some stuff. And that was how I started painting. Is I was really impressed. He was really good too. Like, and I don't want to like, I don't want to say it sucks that he stopped painting, because he went on to be an amazing dad and has a great family and whatnot. But it's I think personally that if he had the opportunity, he could have been someone's studio painter. And it kills me that I don't have any of that old stuff that he had. I was young, I was dumb, I lost them, sold them, whatever the case may be, they're no longer in my possession, and that makes me just a wee bit crazy, because they were really good. He was very, very talented, and I am glad that I was able to follow in his footsteps, and I would like to think that I have hopefully done well by his choice to kind of pass that stuff on to me. Yeah, this is a cool model too. She's a kind of smiling dryad wood elf lady with goggles. Not sure why she has goggles on, but this one's gonna be a lot of fun to paint. All right. But yeah, so what I was saying is I do this and I dig, I dig the process, and of course I love doing commission work, and I love painting, just in general. I like what the end process is, and I love putting a fully painted army down on the table and people go ooh ah, even if it's not my best work, just knowing that I've put the extra effort into the situation. And I just got these, sit these guys off to the side. I'm also going to check my phone real quick while I'm talking to see if, how long ago did I talk to my kid? Oh wow, like 45 minutes ago. This video is going to be forever. All right, yeah. So let's get the base coat on these guys, because I promised you I was going to show you some painting. So let's do that. All right. So we're going to hit the big light, so it's going to get bright again for a second. I'm going to kill one of these extra lights. Kill this other extra light. Okay. But yeah, like we were talking about the painting in general and painting and sculpting. I love doing it for money, and I love being able to hand stuff off to the client, and when the client is happy, I'm happy. That's always a plus. But I gotta say, one of the things that has always made this even more worthwhile for me is this is calming to me. I can get down here and not realize that I've been down here for like 3 hours. Where like I've got just the craziest day, and all this other stuff's been going on, and the world is just out to get me. I can come down here and get lost, and get lost in my models, and get lost in painting and sculpting, and let the time just blur by, and then I feel better. This is a stress relief for me. All right, this is going to get a little loud for like a second, because I'm about ready to use my fancy dancy battery powered Robart paint shaker. Let's see if you guys get to see this. This is such a goofy machine. So it's perfect for these. I haven't painted enough. All right, that's kind of funny. The frame rate on the camera is not enough to catch all the vibrations. So on the video, it's going to look like that does not move very fast, but it really cooks. I promise. Yeah, so these turrets, I am really just kind of doing my base coats on them. Getting them, oh, this brush has seen better days. Wow. It's just a Citadel wash brush, but I have beat it to tar. All right. So basically, I am just really kind of doing what I call, so a base coat is adding kind of the blocking initial colors, what you think are going to be like the background colors, or a predominant color. Like on Dance here, his predominant background color is his exosuit, is his power armor. So I did he's black primed like these guys, and then there's a very heavy coat of one shaded up metal, because I'll then go in and add a bunch of other metals and some depth and some highlights and some other stuff to it. But initially, I just really kind of want this to look like, I mean, frankly, Fallout's a post-apocalyptic game. I need it to look like it's just sort of ragtag slapped together machinery. Yeah, it's a laser turret, but it's still, these aren't mass produced. These aren't something that you went down to the old Fallout super shop and snagged yourself a turret process. Here's the mass produced turret machine in a box. You had to get your parts. You had to get all the various bits and bobs and pieces and cobble this monster together with whatever science and things that you had learned along the way, so you could defend your settlement, defend your home, your camp, for the people who are out there playing Fallout 76 like I am. Bryan CP Steel on Xbox, by the way. Actually, I don't think it's CP. I think it's just Bryan Steel on Xbox. But yeah, so like what I'm doing now, it is most of the time base coats are a little more thorough. Like I would be very more careful about where I'm putting things. But since these turrets are really predominantly going to be metal, kind of like his power armor, my base coat for them is a process that I call heavy dry brush. A dry brush normally is where you take almost all of the paint off of the brush and you just sort of catch the tops. So like, see what I'm doing? You just sort of catch the corners, catch the tops. I call a heavy dry brush is it's still the same process, but I'm catching more than just the tops. I'm ignoring a lot of the recesses, but I'm still getting in there and getting a little bit because I don't want much, if at all, of that undercoat primer to show through. And the only reason why this is something that I feel I can do with these turrets is because the majority of what this process is going to end up with is they're going to have multiple shades of metal, a couple of non-metal colors on them, and then they're going to get a pretty thick like oil bath to show how grimy they are, and I'll probably use some weathering powders and stuff on them to show like burn soot and whatnot, some rust. But overall, these are not character pieces. I was not paid to do these models like they were going to be part of a diorama or like an award-winning thing that I'm putting into a Gen Con or an Origins painting competition. These are play pieces. These are things that, you know, we're going to be using when we play the games, when we play the various scenarios, some of which I'm writing. Can't believe I just did that. And that's going to be, you know, these are going to get handled. They're going to get dice thrown around them. You know, like I'm going to do a good job. That's not the question. I'm not going to be crazy, you know, anal OCD about whether or not there's any primer showing. You know, did I go over the entire model with a base coat before I started doing my dry brushing? You know, that's not what these are about. These are play pieces. They're terrain pieces. I mean, heck, these turrets are probably not even going to see as much use as like Dance and Cade here. These are play pieces. These are characters. These are things that he's going to be fielding to lead his army in some instances. Whereas these turrets, yeah, they're going to see the tabletop occasionally. And heck, he'll probably let some of us borrow them if the scenario says the other guy gets a turret. It's not going to be that kind of piece. If it was, and I mean, and here's the thing: if my client looked at me and said, "I want these turrets to every one of them to be characters," you know, I'm going to pay you your character wages on each turret. If they wanted to, I would never say no to that. I would have to probably rack my brain to figure out how to make these things, make each one individual to the point where they're, you know, character level paint jobs. You know, there'd probably be graffiti on them, and I'd probably doll up the base, maybe sculpt some extra stuff around them, like a teddy bear or something very Fallout-y. Probably do some like bombshell painting on the side, you know, like the old fighter planes did. You know, like there's ways to doll up just about anything. I just don't think that. I think I would probably ask a client if they said that. I'd probably ask them why. You know. And then I would say, yes, I'll do it, because, you know, as I mentioned in an earlier video, it's the client's model, client's job. You know, this is what they want. If they want it, I'm going to do it. All right. After I get this metal heavy dry brushed onto this last turret, I'm going to set them off to the side, and I'm going to get the primer on those Exit 23 models. So I can close out this segment of the video with, man, this time went by quick. I told you when I paint, man, I just get lost. I didn't realize how fast it goes. was I saying? I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah. I want to get those guys primed because I want to discuss primer and kind of the pre-priming process. A little alliteration there for you. Pre-priming process procedures. Peripherals. I got nothing. Because that's a really important thing. Now, see, I mentioned earlier what happens when you find a tiny piece of flash while you're doing a model. It's annoying, and I totally just did. There we go. Now, luckily, it was really tiny. It was down by the toe of this turret, so it's going to be easy to kind of cover up the spot that I just cut off of that model. But yeah, like, that's a good case in point of what I meant earlier when you find something that you wish got cut off earlier. Alright, so let's check these guys over just a little bit, make sure that I don't have any glaring black primer spots that I missed, big panels or anything. And then set these cats off to the side. Get these guys back, because by now that super glue accelerant is all evaporated off. And I'm going to show you, so there's lots of different ways to prime. Some people use an airbrush, some people use spray primer. I have been known to use spray primer from time to time. Funny story, a little thing here, is, so this box, it looks kind of like a moon landing. This box is, and there's a bunch of resin reinforcing the bottom, is the lid to a Mercurian maculator from Warzone, a defunct game that started out as the Mutant Chronicles. There was a war game that was really, really good from 20 years ago. And you can see a little bit of the art on the inside of that box from still. Back in the day, I used to do all spray prime all the time because I didn't really care how, there was no, I didn't have any difficult, models that if it came out a little fuzzy, I'd just work into the paint job. But it has come with me, this box has come with me, 5 or 6 houses at this point, through a marriage, through a child, through thick and thin, and has slowly built up layers of primer, primer, sealer, sealer, primer, sealer, sealer, primer, primer, sealer, sealer, to the point where I'm going to get an X-Acto and I'm going to show you. It is stone. So that is where the original box is, where the edge of the original box. All of this is layers upon layers upon layers of primer and sealer and sealer and primer and sealer and primer and primer and sealer, and it is hard enough that it can hold. That it is ridiculous. It weighs about 3 pounds. I don't even use my spray primer that often anymore, but I keep that with me because it's sentimental. So yeah, I don't spray prime very much, but you can. I don't suggest buying cheap spray primer, and I definitely don't ever suggest using spray primer in a situation where you might get some moisture in it, because if moisture gets trapped in those beads of primer, you will end up, almost guaranteed, you are going to end up with fuzzy primer, and there's not a lot you can do about that. It's part of the texture becomes part of the model, and you got to either strip it and start over, or figure out how to make it work. What I like to do for most of my models, and everything here you've seen, and this is what happened, is I actually buy Vallejo brand primer that, generally speaking, I think most people use this for airbrushes. But I actually prefer it. Just using a brush. It allows. I have a lot of control with it. I can, if I see bubbles in the primer, I can get rid of it. I can kind of pop it with the edge of my brush. And before I actually prime it, in a metal model like this, generally speaking, other than cleaning off the flash and making sure there's not giant mold lines or anything like that, there's not a lot of pre-model prep that it needs to be done, in my opinion, before I prime it, other than I'll ticky-tack it to a base. One of these, oh, did I crack that? Okay. I'll ticky-tack it to, or poster tack, as the case may be. Sorry, I'm showing my Chicagoland background. And then this gives me something to hold on to when I'm painting that isn't the base, because eventually I'm going to be painting and flocking the base too. I know that they make like fancy handles and things like that, and like these cool things that like pinch your model from above and whatnot. I just don't, I don't know. I don't see a need for it. I've got a bazillion extra bases. I've got a ton of these wooden widgets that I don't even know where they came from. But I don't know. Call me frugal. It's never been something that I felt necessary to spend the money on, is little holders when I've got these, or in some cases, back in the day, we used to use the top of paint pots when they got bad. It is what it is. And then I will then take this black primer that I got here, and I'm careful not to splatter any on Dance and Friends, and then I'm just going to liberally add it to the model. Again, it might look like this is really the kind of the easiest part of the process. If this was a resin model, and I would be worried about the mold release that was used to get the model out of its mold when dealing with resin models, I would have given these guys an overnight bath in some dish soap or some simple green to get rid of that kind of greasy texture. Hit them with a soft toothbrush the next day just to kind of give them a little bit of a scrub. Obviously, being careful on some models. Some resin is more brittle than others, and you don't want to use too warm of water because you can bend a lot of resin. Sometimes it's how you use it to fix bends in said resin. But overall, just giving it a good soak and then giving it a kind of a couple hours to dry is enough to get rid of the mold release. Occasionally you'll get some stubborn mold release, and you might have to prime something a couple of different times because it'll like kind of pool off because it hits that mold release, and the binding agent in the primer just goes nope and comes right off. And it's a pain, if you're on a time schedule to try and get something done, and you've got to prime something 2 or 3 times because the mold release is annoying. It sucks. It's not ideal. But it's something that we have to deal with as painters, as commission painters. You want to do the best. And a lot of people also ask, why do you prime your models? What's if I wanted this model to start black, why wouldn't I just grab black paint and do my base coat? And honestly, it's the same reason why you prime a wall or a car or your house, is you want to make sure that all the rest of this work, this hard work that you're going to put into it, is going to stick to the model. And primer is designed to have a little more binding and a little more porous activity to it, so that way the paints that go on afterwards stick to that primer, and the primer sticks to the model, and everything's honky-dory, everything's fabulous. Not to mention, especially with models that have maybe different types of resin or different types of materials that make them up, like it's a combo model that's partially resin and partially metal, or part plastic, or whatever, a good coat of the same color primer or the style of primer, if you're doing a special setup called zenithal priming, where it's like dark on the bottom, light on the top, or light on the, I have to look it up. I don't remember. I don't do it very often. But it gives you a backdrop, a good solid backdrop, so an even color coat for what you're painting. And that way, so if I'm going to paint, in this case, 30 models in roughly the same paint schemes, give or take, for these guys, I'm going to want whatever their base is, whatever their primary undercoat to be the same, because I'm going to want all of these paints that I'm using on them to behave the same way. Because if I primed 2 or 3 models white instead of black, and then did the same paint scheme, they are going to look warmer, they are going to look brighter. It might not be much, and it might not be something that the normal person's eye just looking at your models is going to catch, but you will. And someone who's more into painting and into the art structure, they'll catch it, and it'll make you crazy, unless that's something that you're actually looking to do. And if that's the case, you'll switch it up. Like there's a Yeti in this this set that actually looks like a really good Shadowrun troll, by the way. That is going to be in much lighter colors. That lady is going. Oh, it's a female, by the way. That lady is going to get primed white because I want her to stand out on the brighter side of things, and I've got some white brush primer over there as well. So that's kind of what I will be doing with this. Yeah, so basically now how we got here is we're all get your teeth. He's holding a football in his mouth, so it's kind of annoying to get around to the football. All right, make sure all the little popped areas, the bubbles are popped. Some of them will evaporate out, but I want to make sure that I get them. All right, oh, I'm getting all over my hands. All right, so I've got, I wish I would have got around to them. I spent too much time telling you how things worked. So I'll get back to these guys tomorrow. I'll probably get in on these turrets in the next couple days. And then when these guys are done priming, or their primers done, I'll start doing some base coats on them, and we'll get things going. Yeah, so I'll give you guys a checkup later on, show you how things are going. Please let me know how this segment of the video worked or didn't work for you guys. I really kind of want to know whether or not this is something that I can do again in the future, or every so often, or maybe, yeah. And be honest with me. Did this work? Did this not work? Do I need to get closer to the models? Do I need less light, more light? I really want I want feedback on this one, folks. Not just hey, cool. I mean, I want feedback all the time, but either way. All right, so I'm going to pop off this part of the video, and then we'll go back to the other camera and kind of do our finishing thoughts. So, see you in a sec.
All right, so I hope that this this whole hobby cam thing meshes together. I have a neat trick while I was rendering that middle part of the video that I think is gonna be what I'll try next time we do a hobby segment. If we do another hobby segment, that could be really cool. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I'll play around with it and see if I can get it to work. But if I can, I think that might be what I do when I actually get to do some real painting. I didn't guess I lost track of time, as I do. This is normally the part of the video where I tell you about, all the awesome stuff going on, and I'm just gonna kind of leave you with just the normal nugget of we all are gamers. We love to play games. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope that this comes off as a cool thing for me to do. Obviously, I'm going to keep going with the channel, And I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you think, what you felt about the hobby section. Should I do more? Should I change it up? Should I do maybe next time do some sculpting? I'm working on a project right now, a very big project that I think some people will be pretty ecstatic when it gets done. And maybe if people are patient today, they'll see something. Haha. All right. So I guess with that, it's late. I still have to get everything edited out, make sure everything works, and we'll get everything lined up to publish. So, from my house to yours, I got a bunch of cool stuff happening. Leave me some comments. Tell me what you think. Make sure to pass us around. Show your friends. Show your relatives. Show your teacher. Show your postman. I don't know where I'm going with this. It's late, and I want to I want this to do well. I want this to be a good thing. So, however you decide, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you get your friends to subscribe, and pass it on. And next week, if you've got a cool idea for next week, to be like a regular chit chat style of episode, I'm sure I'll be able to go on about this, that, and the other thing. But I would love to be able to have people talk to me about, or let me know the stuff that they want me to say, and to talk about, and the different topics and things. Because I know I've got some ideas of what I want to do, but I also want to make sure that I cater to you guys. I'm doing this for you, and you should want to know the things, or you should have a say in the things that you want me to talk about or show or whatnot. And I'd love to hear from you. So leave me comments, and you know how it is. Just get out there, enjoy yourselves, enjoy the beginning of this weird summer, and play some games. We'll see you next week.